I'm Annie.
And I'm Leah.
And this is Lactation Business Coaching with Annie and Leah, where we talk about the smart way to create a compassionate and professional private practice.
Let's dive in. Hey, Annie.
Hey, Leah. How are you?
I am doing well. How about you?
I'm great. I am super excited about our new Deeper Dive series through our Patreon community. And if you haven't heard about these yet, we're doing these 1-hour Zoom calls once a month on a different topic, something we've covered in the podcast, where if you join live, you can possibly be brought on screen with me and Leah to talk through a challenge that you're specifically having, but we're also recording the calls and making them available to you afterwards so you don't have to be there live, because I know timing can be difficult and schedules and all of that, and you're always going to have that last minute client that's going to make it impossible for you to come. And so that's available to anyone who is a member at our $20 a month level in our Patreon community. So Leah and I love making these podcasts. It's so much fun. We love interacting with you. We know a lot of you are listening because we see our download stats kind of like give us some imposter syndrome. Like, oh my gosh, a lot of people are listening. And you're also talking to us and giving us feedback and helping us make the show better, which is, we love it. We love this two-way conversation we get to have with you guys. In order for us to keep making these episodes, though, we need more people to join as members. So maybe you just want to join at the $5 a month level, and it's like buying us a cup of coffee and just listen and not be a part of the deeper dive calls. But if you join at the $20 a month level, you're going to get these deeper dive calls. They're really great.
It's definitely a huge value. I think about, just to have 1 hour to get on a call with other people in the trenches with you, talking about these topics that really impact our day-to-day business. We're going to be delving into charting and how to do doctor's reports and dealing with money and self-care and just so many amazing topics. I mean, I selfishly am like, I'm so excited we're doing these because I want to talk about this stuff with my peeps too. I want to talk shop with the people that are in the trenches with me. And so these calls are going to be awesome. It'll be well worth your $20. Just think about, a small investment for a lot of bang for your buck with these calls. So we really look forward to more.
And our patrons are the ones that are making it possible for us to continue making this podcast. So the more of you who listen but don't support us, the less we can do. And we want to keep doing this for as long as we have things to say about private practice, which so far our list of topics that we want to talk about is ridiculously long. So
on and on.
There's so much.
And then it feels like every time we have a podcast, I'm like, we need to talk more about that one piece of the thing that we just talked about. It's just like it builds on itself. And so we're really excited to bring this deeper dive to you. And we're excited that you guys are supporting us so that we can keep bringing our every other week content to you as well. So here's a thanks out to all of our current Patreon members. And we really, really appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you so much. And we hope to be appreciating a lot more of you. So thanks. Before we dive into the content of our episode today, which is why IBCLCs need therapy, Leah, what's your motivation for today?
Yes. So my motivation today is to take a minute, or not a minute, but more than a minute, but to really think about your support team, who's around you supporting you. I think this is a concept we really talk about with our postpartum families. And I think we need it just as much. We need to have people on our side that they're our go-tos when things get tough. And sometimes it's really helpful to think about it so that in the moment, here's my 911 person, here's my paid person that I'm going to go to when things are really tough. I think it's so helpful to think through it. So my motivation tip for you today is to take a minute and write down the 5 people that are going to be supporting you, that are on your support team, so that when you do need some extra help, you do need to talk through something that's overwhelming you, that you have those people on your list to go to right away. So I want to have everyone make a list, 5 people that are going to have your back, that are going to be there to support you. That way, when you're in a bad place or just having a really rough day, you know exactly who you're going to call.
It's great. I mean, I hope I can list 5 people, but I'm gonna do it. And if I can't list 5 people, I'm gonna try to think about like why, like if like who's on the fence, like who am I like? I want you to be one of my 5 people, but you're not. Like, what's going on there?
Right. And it could be somebody that you're paying. You know, it could be a therapist or a life coach. It could be your partner. It could be your mom. Could be your colleagues, a mentor.
Now you can have like a different person for the different facets of the things you're struggling with. Because what we're going to talk about, I think this leads us into what our topic today is about, which is why IBCLCs need therapy. And Leah and I actually went back and forth about the title. Like, should we put therapy in quotes? Should it just be therapy? Should we even say therapy at all? Because we, first of all, don't want to make light of needing therapy. Therapy is great. And I know I kind of like will say this sometimes to my clients. If you feel like you might want therapy, just get therapy. Like, it's like there's no harm in getting it. And even having the feeling that it might be helpful to you is probably a sign that it will be. But we also know that there are things that we're struggling with that aren't at the level that require a therapist, actual therapy, but require different kinds of support. So, Leah, why is this work so hard?
I think we have so many layers of challenges in the work that we do. We have the clinical layer, there's a lot of pressure on us to have such a vast array of clinical knowledge. I feel like that's a huge burden on us, and everything's always changing. Like, I feel like, oh my gosh, I haven't read that article. I haven't read that study. Oh, I got to get caught up on who's doing what, when, where, and are the new classes I need to take. I just think there's this really huge burden to stay ahead of the game, to be on top of the game, to be a sought after IBCLC. You got to stay up with the times, So there's that layer. There's the layer of the really tough, hard things that we're doing in consults. We're working with people that are very vulnerable. They might have been through traumatic experiences that could be triggering to us, or it could just be really heavy and that's weighing us down. We're also giving the whole consult. I feel like sometimes I have to be so on, just giving my energy.
And it's not like you have an unlimited well of energy to give. I mean, you and I both talked about like those days when you just come home and your family's like, how is work, honey? And you're like, I just need to crawl into bed for 1,000 years and not think about what we all just went through at that house.
Definitely. And then I think we tend to, carry a lot of burden of our client situations, even though we say we're going to have boundaries and we're not going to do that and we're going to let it go. We're going to walk out of the house. We gave our referrals. We did our things. But I think as an IBCLC, most of us come from a place of being just a very compassionate person. That's what led us to the work that we do. And that compassion kind of makes things linger with you. It's the 2 a.m. and you wake up and you're wondering if the mom is in pain at home trying to get that latch that you guys got, or is that baby getting supplemented enough, or is that mom really getting the support, additional support she needs. It's all those clients that wake you up at 2 a.m. or you're in the middle of washing your hair in the shower and you're like, oh my gosh, are they okay? I hope they're okay. It's like that burden that we carry with us all the time, I think really weighs us down. And I know we've talked about that a lot, compassion fatigue, lack of self-care. Imposter syndrome. I mean, imposter syndrome's a big one. We just did a call on that in January, was our deeper dive call. And it's huge for us. And I think it really comes from all these huge demands we have on the work that we do. I mean, we're kind of the booby fairies, and a booby fairy, it seems like there's a lot of work and demand behind that.
It's so true, like that demand and the isolation that comes with it, where you need to be confident for your families. You need to, they need to be able to trust you, and you need to be able to stand by your recommendations, to the family and to their healthcare team, especially when you know that there's a chance that the healthcare team, the care providers for the parent and the baby are going to completely dismiss everything you've said. And then you're like, okay, well, do what they said and let me know how that works out for you. And it's hard not to feel like that makes me feel angry. And I'm not angry at my client and I'm angry at the care provider, but I have nowhere to put that anger. I have nothing I can do with it. I just kind of have to hang on to it. And like the same thing where, you hear, somebody is sharing, how much something hurts, or they'll tell you more about their birth story than you needed to hear. Or they'll start to try to get you to be their therapist for their birth trauma or their marital problems. I mean,
yeah.
And you're like, I am not trained for this.
Can't take that on.
But like, you just gave it to me. You just handed it to me. And, I hope that I'm doing a good job referring them out to the appropriate professional. But the reality is we get these things.
That's still in your mind. You can't like dismiss it. It's going to sit there because now you've heard it. You can't unhear it. There's so many things like that you're like, I'm now going to have that in my brain. That is now there. Can't take it back. Won't be able to erase that one. And then that builds up and builds up. And then like you said, we have this additional layer on top of all that of, everybody else that kind of makes our job a little bit harder, whether it's the parents getting contradictory information from family members or their best friend who, did 12 weeks to 12 hours of sleep thing, or, the pediatrician who, feels like, no, they don't think the restricted frenulum is going to make a difference, or, there's so many layers that then kind of build on us when it comes to just the work in and out daily work that we're doing.
And the fact that we have a job that's weird. Like it's not,
it's like so unusual to most every other job out there.
Like you go to the dentist and you have a new hygienist and they're making small talk. What do you do for a living? I'm a lactation consultant. And now they're like in there with the instruments in your mouth telling you how, like, why breastfeeding didn't work out for them. And you're like, I just literally came here to get my teeth cleaned. I didn't come here to help you process your breastfeeding grief.
Like lactation therapy or something. It's like you become the vessel for everyone's, poor lactation outcomes, or their great lactation outcomes. Either way, it's like you just become the vessel that gets to take all that in. Everywhere you go, I feel like, oh my gosh, I'll be at a Christmas party that like for my husband's work and they're, what do you do? And lactation consultant. Oh man, I tried to breastfeed, but this happened and on day 1, blah, 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 blah. And then on day 2, and I'm like, oh my gosh, your kid's 4. How long is this going to take?
It's like, okay. And suddenly we're taking a history. Or right. Or you'll get the story where somebody will be like, oh yeah, I breastfed my child for 18 months. And you're in your mind, you're like, oh yay, a happy story. And then they're like, and it was awful.
Oh,
and you're like, I was like, why did you do that to me? Like for a second, I thought it was going to be really nice talking to you. And now like, oh, okay, I'm sorry that I am sorry. Like, I don't want somebody to have
Genuinely,
to do something for 18 months that they found awful. But like,
right. But it is
I'm
a lot.
not your person for this.
I feel like we get this like layer upon layer on us, and it just kind of builds and builds and builds. And it's like we need to stick a hole in the bottom of that bucket so it can start draining out the other side. And I think that's where our coping mechanisms can really come in to help us manage that. So it's like our bucket's all full of all this mud, and then we're gonna poke a hole in the bottom of it. So how are you poking holes in your bucket of mud?
Gosh, I definitely lean on my primary support system, but there's, which is for me, it's my husband is the main person who gets to hear all of my struggles. But, there are some things that I struggle with that he can't understand and that I just like don't feel like explaining to him.
Yeah,
why it's a thing.
Would take 10 extra hours.
Like I just want a hug. I don't, you don't need the context. I just want the support. So he's not really always my person where I'm going to sit down and be like, let me go into why this was specifically so hard. I mean, he loves to hear me complain about the pediatricians who push sleep training, even when the babies are like falling off the growth chart at 2 months. And they're like, oh yeah, okay. Sorry to hear your baby's not gaining weight, but guess what? You can now sleep through the night for 12 hours. Just let your baby cry. It'll be awesome. He's great for that, like rally the troops kind of thing. But when it comes to the nitty gritty, like it's, it's you and it's my friend Jen DeShays up in Syracuse, who's like, you guys are the ones that get the Marco Polos from me I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this just happened. And,
Yes.
without giving any details about the clients, like I'm really, even with my closest people, protecting privacy, but you can share without sharing anything that's going to be too much. And I mean, I need that. And I know I get them from you too. And it's nice. I mean, like having that two-way street, unlike a therapist or a life coach, or like I have a business coach that I've been working with now for over a year, where I call her, I tell her my business problems, she gives me solutions, and I don't even have to say like, how are you doing? I mean, I do,
Right.
but like, I don't have to ask her anything about what's going on with her.
Or
So
take on any of her stuff. Right.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so, just like, so I guess like that, the four of my five people. And then I have a good friend who's a business owner. She does, she makes curtains, and she's the one I can call up and be like, Julie, my boss is the worst boss. She doesn't give me any time off. She didn't let me have a lunch break today. I've been holding my pee for 4 hours because my boss is so awful. And then she'll be like, I think your boss is pretty great. Does your boss and your employee want to have a drink tonight? And so it's like good because she and I can like make fun of each other for working too hard, but also support each other, because sometimes you have to work hard and you can't always
Yep.
take a break.
Yeah. And I think that's where, just remembering our self-care, because taking on all this stuff and the different layers of stress that our work gives us, stress builds in the body and then results in you feeling worse and worse because your body's not functioning at peak level. So that self-care. So yeah, there are going to be times where you got to pay the rent. So the people got to be seen, and we're not going to be able to just take off a week because we're stressed, right? But that's where taking care of ourselves, even in little tiny peak moments, I love just some counted breathing, just sitting in my car, and 5 minutes, I'll just set a timer and I'm just going to breathe, just big belly breaths, just breathe, take all this level of stress down. Even for 5 minutes, your body will thank you. I mean, certainly staying hydrated and eating good and all those things we know so well. And that's where sometimes having somebody that can hold you accountable for that kind of thing, I think like a life coach is a great person for that. So, they again are paid so that you're not going to be taking on any of their stuff. And they might be able to hold you accountable for some of that self-care that you are skipping on because you are so overwhelmed.
Definitely. And, back to what we were saying at the top of the episode, therapists are great at what they do. So you should, number one, know who the therapists are in your area that you can refer families to for perinatal mood disorders. Because I'm telling you, when somebody starts to unload something that is going to be too much for you because you're not trained to deal with it, because we're not mental health professionals, unless you are, in which case you're super cool.
I know, so cool.
But it can feel really good to be able to say to a client, wow, that sounds really stressful. I'm not trained to help you with that, but I know some great therapists who are, and I would love for you to be able to talk to somebody. They're really great at helping you work through those difficult circumstances. And thank you for sharing that with me. I'm going to make sure you get that list. I would love for you to call someone today. And then you're like, it's not your problem anymore. They told you their problem and you said, here's what to do with it. But then for yourself, I know, for a lot of people who are running their own businesses, and we've already said like time is a big factor, and making time for anything is hard. And for me, I think about like, oh my gosh, like I cannot physically get anywhere. Like that's just so daunting. And especially here in New York City, like even like start out finding somebody in network who can help you. And then like geographically close, like there's nobody like that I can walk to that is a therapist. So then I just like give up. I'm like, I'll be fine. And like, it's been fine. But I, was reminded recently that a lot of therapists are doing telemedicine, virtual consults, which I know a lot of you are doing with your clients for breastfeeding. And that's so easy. You don't have to go anywhere, and your insurance can cover it, like if you're in the US. So, you might be getting emails from your insurance company saying, hey, do you know about, online therapy?
Yeah, I know ours has been promoting it big time. Yeah, definitely. I think it's such a wonderful solution for so many busy professionals that there's a way that we can, it's like we're taking away the barriers to getting the help that we all need, to getting
Because
that
if we're
extra help.
not getting the help we need, we're not helpful to our clients. And so
Yeah,
if anything, getting therapy is a smart business decision.
definitely. I totally agree with that. Well, I think this has been a great conversation because I know this is one we probably need to have every couple of months because I feel like we need these reminders. I know we've talked about it several times over the last year, but I feel like every time we talk about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I do need to do a better job of reaching out to my support people and taking care of myself in this so that I don't burn out because I really, under all of it, love the work we do, but we are at such a high risk for burnout. So we all got to take care of ourselves, please, 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 so that we can keep doing this amazing work. We're changing the world with the work we do, and we need you in the troops. So don't...
all of you.
All of you.
Yeah.
Each and every one of you. So as we wrap up today, Annie, I know you have an amazing tech tip that will make our lives less stressful. Tell us, please.
For sure. So I get a lot of questions about taking photos during consults. Like, how do you take a photo during a consult? So obviously, a lot of you are just having the clients take photos themselves on their own phones so they can have that for reference. But then thinking like, how do I get that into the client's chart? Or I want to take photos during the consult, but I'm scared that they're going to end up on my phone and that group chat that grandma started is going to be spammed with bleeding nipples, which I think like you should really be careful about what ends up on your phone. So my tech tip for you today is you don't need to use your phone because once upon a time, before we all had phones, there was this thing called a camera.
What?
And a camera, it took pictures. And then there was a little cable.
And then that's it? Like it only took pictures?
It only took pictures.
What? You couldn't even make a phone call on it?
You could not make a phone call. You couldn't text anyone.
This is crazy.
I can't play 2 dots on it. You just stick a little cable into your computer, transfer all those photos over. And what you could do is you could take photos during the consult. Like, I think it's still a good idea to have the family take their own photos on their phone just because then they have them. It's really easy for them. But take that same photo, stand behind them with your camera, take that picture or take all those clinical pictures you want. Take a photo of the client's name, like even just take a picture of their chart, either on your clipboard or on your device with their name, take all your pictures. And then when you get to the next client, take a picture of their name, take all their pictures. And then like once a week, once a month, once a quarter, whenever you get around to doing it, connect your camera to your computer, import all those photos, put them into the client's chart, erase the SD card, and you have bypassed all of the cloud related issues.
I love this tech tip because we totally forget that there's even such a thing as a camera that's not connected to the interwebs, that like needs a cable to go to your computer.
Exactly.
It's like so crazy that we forget about that.
And I would recommend too that before you do that import, this is a little like secondary tech tip to go along with that one, is you can turn off iCloud photo sharing while you do that import so that you can just do a local import and then delete the photos from iPhoto. This is for all of you Mac users. Trash them and then turn iCloud sharing back on. You could even, if you wanted to be super safe, is disconnect your computer from Wi-Fi while you do that import. And that's going to prevent you from even accidentally sharing them. And just, turn off the Wi-Fi, import the photos, put them where they need to go in a folder, and then delete them out of anything that could be shared. And then you're good to go.
Awesome. That is a great tech tip. Thank you so much, Annie. You always have the best tech tips. All right. Well, this has been a great episode. Such wonderful reminders for all of us. And I look forward to our next episode, Annie.
Definitely. You can go to patreon.com/Lactation Business Coaching to see the complete schedule for 2020 and get signed up at the $20 a month level to join the calls and get the recordings. And as always, thank you for listening.
Bye. Want to continue the conversation? Join our community and connect with other private practice lactation consultants just like you. We offer support and exclusive member-only content designed to help you create a compassionate and professional private practice. We're all in this together at patreon.com/Lactation Business Coaching. And if you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a review and share it with a friend. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.